Hi, we're here at UK Games Expo 2015 talking to Christian Petersen. Hi, Christian.
Hi.
Thank you so much for sitting down and chatting to us.
No, you're welcome, Annie.
How are you finding UK Games Expo?
That's a fantastic show. I love it. I've been coming off and on the last 15 years or so to England, and I think for the first time, at least in my experience, there's a show that really has enough kind of mass and gravity to be meaningful and be able to grow to big things. So we're excited.
Oh, brilliant! Yeah,
we'd love to support it.
There's it seems to be massive. Like we keep getting lost going around, so it's really cool.
It is a bit of a maze here, but it's a fun maze.
Definitely. Yeah. So if you don't know who Christian Petersen is, first of all, shame on you. But second of all, he's a game designer and the CEO of FFG. So let's start from the beginning.
Okay.
Because I want to talk about my favourite game.
All right.
Twilight Imperial.
Yes.
How did this start? It was 97 it was released?
It was in 97, that's right. When we first started the business, Fantasy Flight Publishing was first started as a comic book publisher.
Yeah.
And we had some great European comic rights. There was lots of noise. We took a break. We're back. Twilight Imperial, 1997. So we've been a comic publisher, and so we learned to do a lot of stuff related to print publishing and essentially learning the software programs needed to deal with layouts and Photoshop and a little software called Quark Express, which nobody uses anymore.
Okay,
but that was a layout program everybody used at that time. The comic books didn't work very well, so having learned how to print, I thought, well, why don't I do a game that's based on our what I really love to do, which is games.
Yep.
And at the time, I played lots of games. I owned a small company in Denmark where I grew up, which was a game import company. We mainly imported Avalon Hill board games.
Brilliant.
So that was kind of my food, if you will, in my formative gaming years, There really wasn't a sort of a big, epic science fiction conquer the galaxy kind of game.
Yep.
And so I said, there's nothing in this space. Let's do a game. I have some good ideas.
Okay.
And there came up the idea that I was going to use these hexagons, and there was going to be different races. The hexagons actually they were inspired by Magic Realm.
Oh, really?
They did the Avalon Hill game, yeah. Of course, that same Gen Con, when I showed it off the first time, there's another game called Settlers of Catan, which completely, shamelessly had taken my hexagon, inspiration. But they used sheep, I used spaceships.
Yep.
So I thought it would be all right.
Yeah.
So that's when we put it out. But back in '97, that was our first game.
Yeah, brilliant. I mean, it's definitely one of my favourite games. I've only played 3rd edition.
Yeah, that's the main one.
So there's been 3 editions. I imagine each one's slightly improved the game.
We like to think so.
Yeah. Is there a 4th edition planned? Are you building towards that, or is it?
Yeah. So we can't talk about unannounced releases.
Yep. That's fair.
I cannot confirm or deny anything.
Okay.
What we're going to do in the future, I'm afraid.
Perfect. I mean, are you happy with 3rd edition? How
yes, we're very happy
come
with 3rd edition that we've been having in a print, I think, since 2005.
Yep.
And it keeps doing almost every year better than the last.
Oh, brilliant.
So we're very happy with it.
Do you think the board game industry has space for these 6-hour plus games?
Yes. I do. I think the last, say, 10 years or so, there's been this idea that a game must be short and have no player elimination.
Yep.
I think that those are fine games that are short and have no player elimination, but the idea that all games must be like that is like a fashion.
Yep.
And less of a statement of what people actually enjoy generally. There's many different tastes, there's many different ways to express storyline and engagement in games.
Yep.
And one of those is to have a game that is long, and in which you invest a certain amount of your your time, your personality, your sense of vision, within the context of a game. And so, playing a 4X game, a Twilight Imperial essentially is a 4X game. You start from small. You're building tech. You're advancing. You're counting your neighbors, you're starting political alliances. All this stuff does not really reach the same level of emotional impact if you're doing a short, in a short duration. So I feel very much that just like there's room for long movies and old wines, that there certainly are room for games that are unashamedly long. And Twilight Imperium is one of those games, and I wouldn't personally want it any other way. Yeah, no. My first playthrough of Twilight Imperium took 12 hours. And that is long.
we genuinely didn't know. We looked up and it was like, it's been 8 hours. We were so engrossed in the game, and it just works so well.
And of course, some groups completely take on that personality of their race, of their empire, and then they start acting out, in voices, and they start going into back rooms and having dealings, and that's how the game can turn long. Fundamentally, what the game is doing is not necessarily require more than 3 hours or so, but it's what the players put into it.
Yeah,
that can really stretch it. But they usually do that because they're having a good time.
Trust immediately left the room as soon as we started playing.
Trust immediately left.
Excellent. As soon as we started, did you just whisper? What did they whisper? What's happening?
Who's that trust person? Why is he not here?
We really had some good times with that, so it's really good. So you've designed a fair amount of board games. Definitely from looking from Board Game Geek, there's you a lot of credited. Right. So do you have a one you're most proud of? Or is that like picking a favourite child? Which I imagine is possible.
It is to some degree. I mean, they all have different qualities, that I appreciate. Certainly, Twilight Imperial has lasted so long, and really without it, the company wouldn't be Fantasy Flight Games. Yeah. Another game that I'm really proud of is the Game of Thrones board game that we did, which I felt pushed the style of game that FFG wanted to do into our next generation when we launched that back in 2003, I think. It was a very important game for us. And it also showcased some of the stuff that I really appreciate in games, which is to try to create as much interlaced action between players as possible. Prior to that point, it had been fairly normal for long-form games to have you take your entire turn, you do all your stuff, I wait for about half an hour, sipping a Coca-Cola or something while you're doing your thing. Really trying to interlace turns, try to create as much simultaneous play as possible. And that's where, for a thing like Game of Thrones, has all these simultaneous play aspects where everybody's placing orders at the same time. When you do a resolution, some very short impulses, so everybody is usually engaged. There's things like bidding, of course, where everyone is involved. So I like games where players are political, but where there's much engagement and as much as possible, essentially. So I would say the game I'm most proud of maybe is Game of Thrones. Okay, brilliant. I've yet to play that, but it's high on my to-buy list. Really, honestly. No. So play tonight. I'll play with you.
Really?
We'll do it.
Brilliant.
I don't have a copy with me.
I'm sure there's one in the games library.
Yeah, there you go.
So along with being a game designer creator, you are CEO of Fantasy Flight Games. What's the split between sort of those roles?
Well, to be honest with you, the split is more or less 98% CEO of Fantasy Flight and 2% game designer these days. In large part because we have a crew at FFG and we have a series of designers and developers that are humblingly good. And when you have people that are generally better than doing what you do, you try to let them do that, do what they can. I do get to influence a design on a little more high level, based on experiences I personally have had and things I've seen work and not work. That sometimes it works very well. Sometimes it's frustrating for the other guys and girls, but generally it works pretty well. But most of my time really is involved in the business side of things. I did have a chance to do some design last year with Star Wars Armada. And that was delightful. Unfortunately, my other duties prevented me from getting super involved in the closing part of that. So James Niffen, who's credited on there, really deserves a big call out for taking that to the final stretch and taking the lion's share of the work. Oh, brilliant! We're playing a lot of Armada at the moment. Great. Not personally, but Richard absolutely adores it. So what do you play, Andy? Do you know what? I don't know. Do you play games? I just play Monopoly. It's the standards. Maybe you should. It's okay. So let's talk about Final Fantasy Flight Games. Yes. Sorry. We're not final yet. We have more to go. Yeah? Plenty. You're selling a lot of games now that you can are expandable. Your LCGs, Imperial Assault, X-Wing. Do you think that's the future of successful board game companies? Well, I mean, to me, I think that just reflects the type of games we like to make and the kind of ambition that we have for games. I mean, Fantasy Flight makes a lot of games which are inherently lifestyle games, where when you commit and engage with one of our games, whether it's Twilight Imperial or something else, it's a fairly large commitment, but based on that commitment and investment that the player makes, we like to try to create as wonderful an experience and as wonderful engagement over time as possible, which means an additional product or expansions and so on. I mean, even Twilight Imperial, which was our first release, had I think 4 or 5 expansions.
Yeah.
So we've always believed that for some games that having them live and breathe and move into the future with new content is great.
Yeah, brilliant.
Some games that don't need it. We have not expanded very much. Game of Thrones board game, for example, and a number of other games that we've done. But a large part of our games, probably the games we're probably best at, are the games that are so ambitious and such a large scope that they transcend the idea of a single box. That it really is a lifestyle.
Yeah, well, that's cool. There's always such a strong level of polish to your games. Like you know when you're playing a Fantasy Flights game.
Thank you.
Is that a rigorous process to ensure every product that goes out it meets the standard?
Well, I mean, we have learned a lot of lessons over the years. This is our 20th year since we started in '95. It is a very rigorous process. We, of course, not only have a lot of experienced people working on the games, but we also have many steps, of control, whether it's on the financial side or whether it's on the component side, whether it's in the rules writing side, or whether in the whole concept of all coming together. A few years ago, we had an issue where there was a misprinted component in one of our games, which made a few of the scenarios in that game unplayable, and that was really terrifying to us.
Yeah.
It showed sort of a need that we needed to have a whole additional step. So what we do now is we have a beta game process. When we think a game is done, we will actually print or have manufactured a very few amount of copies, say 30 or 40 copies.
Okay.
Which of course is very expensive and it takes time to make. And those are then sent out to a whole assortment of people who can then open it for the first time and try to play it right out of the box.
Yeah.
And so if there's any obvious problems that somehow we may have missed because we're too close to the product, then we'll come out, whether it's I don't understand this rule, or this component was printed with the wrong face and the wrong back, or whatever, things like that. So really take that extra step. And that's something I don't think anybody else that I know of does, but it's a significant expense in time and treasure to do that. But hopefully over the last about 2.5 years, we will have seen that that level of extra polish and extra finesse that we're really trying to push into the process. So that's been a big deal for us.
That's cool. How long does that process normally last? Is it different each time, or?
For us, having an idea for a game to the game actually materializing can be anywhere between 2.5 to 1.5 years. When we know we want to do a game, it's not normally we can't just start it right away. We have a lot of people working at FFG, working on lots of different projects, and we can't just also say stop everything you're doing. Well, sometimes we do, sometimes we can, and we have done. Rarely we've done this, but first we have to organize the right team to come together, the right producer, the right designer, the right content developers, make sure that there's time reserved in our graphic designer team. Our art team needs to make sure that if it's a substantial portion of art, that they need to be able to block and be able to recruit artists to help us with that. So it takes quite a long time to get everything together. And then when the process actually starts, I would say once the game is going, I would say it'll take anywhere from 1.5 to 9 to 10 months to actually get a game out.
Yeah.
If we have a game that's completely designed and ready to go, that's faster. You can probably save maybe about 6 months. On that process.
Oh, brilliant.
But still, it's pretty hard for us to get a game out in less than 9 to 10 months these days. Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. Let's talk licensed games, because you've got quite a range of them.
Right.
Star Wars being the most massive, and
That's a big one,
Game of Thrones, you've got Lord of the Rings.
Right.
Are these the future of board games? Like, from what I saw from your catalogue, it's more license focused at the moment. Is that always going to be the way?
I would agree with you that it leans towards the license size at the moment. Our general philosophy is that we make 3 different types of games. We make games that are licensed, which means it has an IP that is famous or known, or provides some sort of a narrative, a story, an emotion, in the audience that wants them to buy this game. And we hope to provide very good games for that. We also have a side of us that likes to do classic games. When I say classic games, it means not chess or dominoes or something like that, but games that have resonance and meaning within the gaming culture. So we've gone back over the years and we've tried to get the rights, and succeeded in many ways, to get the rights for games like Cosmic Encounter and Wiz War. Even a game like Netrunner or Netrunner, we would consider a classic game. It was a game that was considered extremely good. It went out of print for a great number of years, maybe 10 years or so.
Yep.
And we decided this was a classic, in the classic side of our portfolio, and we went back and republished that. There's quite a number of games that we've done it with, even games that we've done with Games Workshop, like Warrior Knights and Fury Dracula, and all those games we consider classics.
Okay.
And then the last part of our strategy then is what we call proprietary games, which are the games that that we make.
Yep.
That is based on our universes and our own narratives, like Twilight Imperial, as an example.
Yep.
That's probably the one that's sort of been shrunk a little bit lately, because we have so so many wonderful things to do with our other licensed products that piece of the pie has been pushed back. But we still do games like Eldritch Horror, Arkham Horror, and Elder Sign, and a number of different products like that.
Yeah. We've going back to Star Wars, because it's obviously a massive franchise.
It is.
We've got Episode 7 coming out in December.
We do, don't we?
Is there any plans to include any new ships in X-Wing or anything for Imperial Assault?
The camera must turn off now. No. We really can't talk about it.
Yeah.
We do have some very exciting products coming out.
Okay.
Episode 7 based.
Yep.
But what they are, what shape they take, how they smell,
we'll have to wait.
Completely off limits. Yes.
Okay.
We have to wait. There's an embargo date that will be announced at some point where we can talk about what products are coming out. But I know that Disney is very, very Disney Lucasfilm are very consciously, very tight-lipped about what we can say, because we're really trying to delight and surprise everyone to our best of our ability.
Yep.
And try not to create too many spoilers and previews. So it's all very orchestrated. It's very impressive, actually, the way it's done. And we're very excited to show you what we got.
Brilliant.
But not yet.
Okay.
This fall sometime.
I'll wait then. Finally, the next 5 years of the board game industry.
Yes.
Where do you see that? How do you see that taking shape? Have you got any predictions?
Wow.
Biggest question for last.
I am very optimistic.
Yep.
I think we have really great experiences. We have a very colorful product. I think that the level of quality that's coming out of both new and established publishers is unlike anything that we could have hoped for just 10 years ago. We're seeing shows like this UK Game Expo grow, almost doubling year over year. So a lot of people are getting re-engaged in our hobby, or not re-engaged, engaged for the first time.
Yeah.
And re-engaged, maybe people are coming back. If people drift in and out of the games hobby through their life. But we're seeing a lot of new faces, a lot of new people saying, "This is really fun. This is really excellent." And our games tend to have a inherent ability to want to be played by other people.
Yeah.
And so by the industry growing and more games being played, we are constantly exposing new people to how awesome this is.
Yeah.
And so I'm very enthusiastic about where the games are going, about what we're doing, about the general growth of the industry and the enthusiasm. I still think we have a ways to go. If you go look in a normal toy shop, but in a normal grocery store or whatever, you don't see much evidence of this thriving, amazing industry we have. And that only leads me to believe that there's more places to go.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about that. One thing that we think is going to be more and more important is the ability to take some part of our games, by no means all, even a majority, but some part of our games, and start taking advantage of electronic mediums, using software applications and these ubiquitous electronic devices that we all have now to actually help and create different experiences which we could not provide before. And so we have a segment of our company that's really focused on trying to explore that space.
Oh, brilliant.
And we did it, as you know, with XCOM.
Yep.
And I saw your very fun and excellent video review of that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I really think that that's going to be an interesting growing area.
Okay.
And we think, generally speaking, that as long as people come to these kind of shows and spread the enthusiasm, that everything will be great.
Anything you want to reveal now about more digital style integration?
About what?
About the digital style integration. Anything you've got
No,
in the
we
plans?
don't have it. That's the problem. I can't really talk about anything we haven't revealed yet.
Yeah,
that's my.
It was worth a try. Sorry, one last try.
You had to. The one thing we did announce at the show, which I think is quite exciting, is we announced a new expansion for the Netrunner card game.
Brilliant.
And so we're really pretty excited about that. That's the last of the 4 faction boxes.
Yep.
And Netrunner has 4 corporations and only 3 runner factions.
Yep.
So people are always speculating, what are we going to do with this 4th box? Because
Yep.
we know corporation is missing, but what are they going to do with the runners? And the team has some really, really exciting ways that they are now creating this neutral mini factions where individual runners, as opposed to a general faction, individual runners create this little ecosystem of abilities and concepts around them. And so if you play Netrunner, I think that will be a big deal. And look forward to see how that's going to spread out through the community.
Brilliant. I play Netrunner, so that's why I'm excited about that.
That's cool.
Christian, thank you so much for chatting to us. We hope you have a good show.
Yeah, you too.
Brilliant.
Thanks for tuning in.